Hi, this is Shauna, the CEO and founder of Fuel Talent. In January 2019, we launched the What Fuels You podcast, and since that time, I have had the honor of featuring and highlighting leaders and their incredible stories. Though I'm eager to continue sharing these stories with you, I want to make space for different and relevant content for this unique and challenging time. While we all navigate the COVID-19 pandemic together, on this podcast and the upcoming ones, I'll be having more focused conversations with leaders to help answer questions, get key insights, and share stories of inspiration around how they and their teams are adapting during this new reality. I hope you enjoy these episodes of the What Fuels You podcast. Today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast is Bennett. Ellen founded Hedley & Bennett, the premium and custom chef quality apron company in 2012. Now with the current COVID-19 crisis, Hedley & Bennett has also developed a reusable protective mask and has transitioned their factory to begin producing these critical supplies. So far, over 100,000 masks have been donated to hospitals and healthcare providers on the front lines. Welcome, Ellen. How are you?
Crazy. Happy we squeezed in some time together.
I'm so glad that we squeezed in the time. And as you know, I've been trying to get you on the podcast forever, and your company and you and your house and your pig and the whole scene brings me so much joy, all the color in your life. And I just love watching you. I wasn't surprised to see that you were on the front lines, quickly pivoting and moving your company towards masks. So I want to get into it. But before we do, I want to shoot you with some rapid fire questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, you were born ready. If you weren't running Hedley & Bennett, what do you think you'd be doing?
I think I'd want to be mayor of some place, some little town somewhere, running the joint.
Running the joint?
Not even kidding.
I read that you traveled around the world. What's been your favorite country that you've ever visited?
I lived and traveled to Mexico many, many times growing up. I'm half Mexican. And Mexico, I would say hands down, no question. And boy, have I been to a lot of spots, but Mexico is so magical and special and colorful and alive and beautiful. And, you could have no money and no resources and still be happy as a clam because they care about the right things and don't care about the not right things.
I completely agree. I love Mexico. I was actually supposed to be in Mexico a couple of weeks ago and was there earlier this year. We usually go 3-4 times a year. I love Mexico. Love.
The best.
And I've been to Mexico City, which I know you've studied in. It's incredible. Pre-COVID-19, what's been your best-selling product?
I think aprons have been our long-standing, cornerstone staple. We make the best ones in the world. We use the best materials.
We have one. We love it.
Everything. Yeah. And they're just built for war. And I think that anything Hedley & Bennett makes is built for aggressive, extreme use and just lasts forever. But I would say aprons. And then after that, definitely our Vans collaboration. That's just an ongoing partnership. So we developed a work shoe that you can stand in all day. And we even changed the sole and made them so much more comfortable than a typical Vans, and made the sole have a rainbow stripe that matches the wall outside of our factory. So it's just kind of inspiring to put them on, and doesn't matter what kind of shitstorm you're headed into every day, you have, some extra pep in your step with the color at the bottom of the shoe. So that's another big hit. And every time we do a collaboration, it's just really fun because I think people love when a brand they appreciate teams up with another brand. It's almost like your two best friends are dating.
Yeah.
You're
I love that. I want to hear more about these collaborations. But when I was asking about the best product, I'm assuming the apron, because that is obviously where the business was birthed and kind of your signature piece. But specifically, you've got so many different ones. Is it weird that I want to have a collection of aprons?
No, there's people that have 22, 23.
I know. I'm chambray, black. I mean, it's
smock, crossback, twill, denim, canvas,
right?
All the flavors. The most popular one is called abalone, and the one right behind that is char, and the one right behind that is pho, and they're all gray and black. And I'm oh my God.
I know. You're the girl who I was laughing because I told you before we got on.
Yellow aprons. All I want to do is cover the world in yellow aprons.
I know. Yellow everything.
And the very classic Japanese denim with a
Yeah.
single chest pocket with a red ampersand patch, which is just sort of like our iconic logo. That is the number one seller by far.
I loved reading about Bennett brunches, which I'm sure you're psyched to bring back.
Yes, one day.
What's the best dish that you've created out of one of these Bennett's brunches?
I remember one time was so special. I invited Anya, who's the founder of Belcampo Meat Company. She's such a badass, and she has all these like an incredible farm and locations all over the country, and really just kills it at harvesting all kinds of food in a way that's really humane and taking care of animals in a way that I think is amazing. So anyway, she came and kind of co-hosted a Bennett brunch for me, and it was pouring rain, and it was in LA, it never rains. And I remember her and I standing outside in my backyard while it was dumping, and everybody, all of our guests were standing inside, like waiting at the sliding door. And her and I were under the tree with a Weber grill, just like grilling. We gave no shits. We were like, doesn't even matter. And we made T-bone steak and all these beautiful roasted
Yum.
vegetables. And like we stuffed our own sausages because she was showing me how, and like happened to bring the pig intestines and the whole bit, or actually it was like lamb intestines or something, like the skin, right? And so we stuffing them in the backyard, and it was just so raw, and we didn't care.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful because I think like you kind of have to know how the sausage is made if you're going to eat meat. You need to know where it came from and how it's made and how it's cut down and all that stuff. And she was just teaching me out there in the middle of my backyard while it was pouring rain. It wasn't perfect, but it was perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I can tell that you bring together really cool and interesting people, but I loved that idea of like cooking together and enjoying your friends. We talked about color. I'm going to guess that I know the answer to this, but what is your favorite color?
Definitely yellow by a long shot. My wedding dress was half yellow. It was like a tonal yellow to white, and I love it. It's happy, it's vibrant, it's alive. It's also like very gender neutral. It doesn't matter if you're like a guy or a girl or whatever, you can use and love yellow, and it's totally legit.
We have slightly similar coloring, and I
Yeah.
don't think I could pull off yellow or feel confident in yellow.
I
Anyway,
mean, vibrant yellow.
a vibrant yellow.
Muted, pale,
Yeah.
overcooked yellow egg yolk.
No mustard. Yeah.
No, it needs to be like yellow, like that.
Yeah.
Or like
That's
banana. Like it's got to be bright.
I love it. Okay. What is the quote that you most often say?
Definitely wake up and fight. You can see it right there. I made that poster forever ago out of like bananas or something. Bananas and tangerines, it looks like, and raspberries. It's just something I've always truly believed in, and I think it is my motto of life, is just getting up there and waking up and fighting, and like not waiting for life to come tell you to do something, but just like proactively showing up and doing it anyway.
Yeah. Well, this is like a perfect on theme for what I was actually going to talk about, which to me feels like the thread of your whole life, which is everything that I've read and just what I know about you, that you just show up and you've got this confidence and this vigor, and you just get shit done. Where does that confidence come from?
I do truly believe that we all have it in us, and your upbringing and your culture affect it. But I have very divorced parents, and when I was younger and my parents got officially divorced, it was just sort of like one of those things where I looked around at my life and I thought, I could wait around for like my parents to figure out what the hell they're going to do with me, or I can decide on my own and just like get going. And I'm a pretty impatient person. Like I want to get things done now. And I think I've been that way even since I was little. So I just decided I was going to figure it out. And I've always just taken that initiative to figure it out. And, life is kind of like a whole belt of experiences, right? And you have notches that you get every time you accomplish something. And so I think that just accumulates into confidence. And I also think I've like made enough mistakes where I've slammed my face into the ground and gotten back up, still bleeding, and I've kept going, that I know that I can keep going no matter what the circumstances.
You can get through it.
I can get through it. And when you are exposed to so much challenge, it just kind of feels like another day where you're like, cool, like that seems like a really crazy decision. And look at the outcome of what it could be and what it couldn't be. I think the chances of me being able to do that are pretty significant. Okay, let's
Yeah.
try.
Did it serve you well, Ellen, when you were little, or was school challenging because you're like, had no patience for it?
Oh, it was totally challenging. And I think I've always been a little peculiar in that sense that when I was younger, it was like all of my friends were so much older. And even when I was like 18, my youngest friends were like 35, 40. They already had kids. Like the idea that I was just doing what everybody did because that's what you did at that age just never quite sat with me. And when I was like 14 years old, I would be helping my mom pay her bills and like writing checks for her because she's a nurse, and so she worked all day. And I was like, well, there's the checks and there's the bills and I'm at home, so I might as well help her start making these checks happen. I just learned how to do that at school. Like, let's do this. So I just kind of have that, like, all right, well, the opportunity's right there, might as well give it a try. And then I dive in and do it.
Good for you. And I know that you started your company, were just like a wee 24-year-old, right? And
Yeah.
you were working as a line cook and realized that people in these aprons didn't have the confidence and
Yeah.
they were kind of schlubby and falling
Yeah.
apart. And so you kind of faked it till you made it. And tell us the story, just a quick and dirty version.
I mean, that's like the gut of it. Was I was a cook. I hated our uniforms. I was like, these have to be better. And I just decided to do it. And everyone was like, well, that's cute. Like, good luck with that idea. And then I just did it. And then it morphed from aprons into chef coats. And then the chef coats went into other pieces of workwear. And now we really don't even call ourselves an apron company anymore. We're really like workwear. And for a
Yeah.
long time, we said culinary workwear. But, some of our biggest hits to your question earlier have been like our jumpsuits, our pants, our
I love the
our
jumpsuit.
socks. Yeah, like we sold out our Madewell collaboration jumpsuit in 24 hours. And it's because people care about what we do because we care about what we do. And like we
Because
do
you've
it.
built a brand also.
Yeah, but like we built like a community that stands for hustle and for people that work hard. It's not just like, oh, I got a shirt. Like it's like, no, you got a Headley and Bennett shirt, which means people busted their ass to make that shirt. And now you're going to bust your ass while wearing that shirt. And it's just like this whole ethos of waking up and fighting every day, no matter who you are or what your circumstances are. Like life is ahead of you. So like, what the hell are you going to go make out of it?
I love it. And so you talked about these collaborations. You mentioned Vans and the rapid fire, and then you just talked about Madewell. How did these collaborations come to be? Was this Ellen hustling, or are these coming to you at this point?
It's a combination. Like Vans, funny enough, I was at a conference and a lady saw me on the street and she like ran up to me and said, "Are you Headley and Bennett?" And I was like, "Yes." Because typically that's me. Like I'm running up to a chef and being like, "Are you Richard Blaze or whoever?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm Ellen from Headley and Bennett." And she said, "I'm from Vans. I think you're amazing, and I've always wanted to do something with
Oh,
you.
that's
Like,
so
let's
awesome.
connect." And then we had a bajillion conversations, and then a year and a half later, like we launched a collaboration. So that one is how that happened. Madewell, they reached out. Other collaborations, I've reached out. Like it's one of those things where you got to just drive the ball to the finish line.
Yeah.
Like, one thing is to talk about it and analyze and sit there and ponder and like come up with spreadsheets about everything, but it's also just like do the work it takes,
Right.
get to the goal line.
I love it. I'm going to make my kids listen to this podcast. I'm like, get it
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
That's what we're all trying to
Sorry
get our
about
kids to
any
do.
bad words.
No, no. Are
Put
you
out
kidding?
there.
They live with me. I'm sure they've heard much worse. When you were little, it sounds like a lot of this just came from need of like, I'm not really sure who's going to take care of it, so I need to get it done. And now you're in a
Yeah,
situation where I'm assuming that the business is
yeah,
doing well financially. I mean, let's
mm,
talk pre-COVID. We'll
yeah,
talk separately about that. But
yeah.
is money something that's ever been a driver for you?
Not
Or
really.
what drives you?
It's definitely not the money because most of the time my CFO is like, no, you got to pay yourself for that. No, you got to do this. Or like, you need to do more over here. You can't just give it all away. Like she's constantly
Reminding you that you're
maneuvering
in
me,
business?
reminding me that this is
Yeah.
like my business. But I think that a lot of the people that work with me are here because of that. And they're here because I'm not just like sitting in an ivory tower being like, I'm doing Headley and Bennett to get rich. Like, that's so horrible and hollow. And if anyone in their right mind is doing business just to get rich or make money, like, Jesus, what a
Yeah.
horrible thing to put yourself into, because it is so fucking hard to
Yeah.
run a company that if you are not dramatically passionate about it, you are setting yourself up for like misery,
Yeah.
because it's just the hurdles you have to get through to keep it all alive and keep it going and innovate and keep everybody happy and push the thing forward. It's like, it's too painful to do it just for the money. If you want to do
Yeah.
it for the money, go get a great corporate job somewhere and like get the healthcare you need. Like
Right.
all day, people need entrepreneurs within large organizations. And I always say that, like, you don't have to own a company to be an entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur within a company. So
Absolutely. What do
yeah,
you think
it's
is the
definitely,
hardest
yeah.
part about being a CEO? Because you mentioned the kind of leading the people and motivating them, but
Yeah.
your core thing is probably the product, right? And
Yeah.
so are you like, ugh, I wish I didn't have to deal with all this other stuff? And if so, do you have someone dealing for you, or are you doing it all?
For a very long time, it was me dealing with it all. But as years have gone by and we've, evolved, we have a CFO and we have a CMO and we have a head of
You're
production.
like a real company.
Yeah, we're like a real
I know. I'm
company.
like, when
Like that.
sometimes I'm like, we have a real company.
I know, like a head of ops and all these
Yeah.
things. And that makes it very real. And I've also had to just be okay with letting go of a lot of areas that I used to run myself, because I'm not equipped to do every role. And that's a hard thing to sort of tell yourself. Um,
Hmm.
but there's areas that I'm really great at. And by not focusing on those areas, I'm doing myself and the company a disservice.
Yeah.
So I've had to really like come to Jesus with that. And that's helped us evolve even more because I'm not getting in my own way.
Well, I'm assuming that you're well served to be in front of everything because you're articulate and energetic and passionate, and it's your baby and it's your story. So I'm assuming some kind of front facing things versus like, I'm going to
Yeah.
sit behind. But what else within the company? Is there anything that you absolutely touch? Is it the product, or is it all hiring needs?
Yeah. Product development all day. Like the things that I really do the most are like content on all kinds of platforms, right? Just like content across the channels, whether it's like newsletters and Instagram lives. Like I definitely have my fingers like deeply in that. I actually have a list on my wall right now of like what's on Ellen's swim lane. It's like product development, partnerships, business dev, sales, content.
You're so good at it. Like I follow it like closely. I'm like, oh, she's posting. And I'm not like that. I
What is
just
it? What is it that you like about it? I'm curious.
Well, I love your confidence and your energy, and that kind of like dance as if no one's watching energy
Yeah.
of, I feel like you surround yourself with really cool women.
Mm.
Like I've seen you post and like your tag a friend, and I never like go down that rabbit hole, but with you I do, because they're all just interesting. So I follow brands that I didn't know about because of you. And it seems
Oh,
like
that's cool.
you're in a group of women that are like women supporting women, not in
Yeah.
this like feminist way, but in a way of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
met this cool badass chick. And I also love that, I think you were getting married at Burning Man. We were trying to meet up.
Yeah, I did. I got married at Burning Man and Mexico City.
And you just seem like you are through and through, like Ellen, who you see at work, Ellen, who you see at home, is just one solid human being. And I
Mm.
love that. And especially for someone your age, not to be like our ageist, but you just seem like you kind of fast forwarded to being like a fully realized human being, young. I don't know how else to say
I'm
it.
like an 85-year-old human. I fast forwarded too far.
Well, you're like an 85-year-old meets an 8-year-old, right? You've got this also childlike energy that's really empowering. I'm very inspired by you. And so I know you've gotten your product in the hands of, Martha Stewart and Jamie
Yeah.
Oliver and others. Are there any chefs or celebrities that you're in awe of that you're like, ooh, this is crazy. Now I'm on the map. Or are you like, yeah,
Brene Brown follows me. I don't even know how that happened, but I think she's a fucking legend and a
well, she's
hero.
like you. You're living the Brene
Amazing.
Brown.
Yeah. So I like when I saw that Brene, was in my ecosystem, I was like, that's pretty amazing. I think Martha Stewart wearing Headley and Bennett and really being a huge advocate of me has been really special. And I don't know, there's just like, honestly, it's sometimes more impactful, like the line cook that I met 7 years ago, who then went on to like have his first sous chef job, and then he opened his restaurant, and then I see him and he's like, I've been wearing Hedley and Bennett for 8 years, and like, thank you for doing what you're doing. Like, honestly, like that has even more of an impact than like Martha. Ooh, I think Martha's amazing, but
Yeah,
like, I know how hard that guy worked to pay the $80 to get my apron, and like, that's special.
of course. Of course. Well, then you're serving your whole purpose. And so, what kind of pride has being a CEO brought you, specifically as a female CEO? How were you raised as far as, was there a traditional, you're supposed to be X, or no?
Not so much. My mom's pretty amazing like that. You know, she would let me paint the house and do whatever the hell I wanted when I was growing up. Not whatever the hell I wanted. She's actually very structured, but like, let me do anything that was adult, like painting the house, buying the,
Right.
buying her my first car. I went and like negotiated it, and then I just said, "This is the dealership. I need you to come by and just like sign it." And I was 15. Like,
I
that's my
love
mom.
that. I love her.
So she's always empowered me to just, like, if I wanna do something, I'm gonna figure out how to do it, and she's gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Okay, that's fine."
You
Um,
got this.
yeah, yeah, she just, like, kinda didn't really flinch at it. Like, one time I painted the living room, like, a taupe brown or whatever. She came home and she was just like, "Oh, looks nice," like, a little Mexican lady, and that was it. She went to bed.
You're like,
Like,
and I'm going to bed
"Well."
now. Ellen, have you ever had a mentor?
I have a lot of mentors. I'm pretty good. Casey, my husband, says I'm pretty good at like finding co-pilots. So, and older co-pilots. I love a old man co-pilot. Like, I think older people are brilliant and have so much knowledge and experience that if you just shut the fuck up and listen to them and hear their like tales and challenges and things, like, you learn so much. So I have a bunch of old guys and older ladies that I love, that are like in up my sleeves, and I've done everything from asking them to let me shadow them. Like, I've driven around while they're running around being their own CEO to their company or empire. I've shadowed like the CEO of Dry Bar, who's an older guy who I think is brilliant. Like, I've literally gotten in the car and like driven around with them, watching how they interact with people. And I learned by osmosis more than like reading.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Um,
the same way.
and so that's been a way that I've just had a arsenal of people I've gathered along the way. And I have a pretty strong, like, no asshole policy in my life. So to your point of like women earlier, I think it's just like, it's women and men. When I'm out in the world and I like find somebody that's a good egg, I bring them in and I just like, I hold them tight and close. And I'm incredibly, um, open about helping them. And so it just kind of creates this very, like, if I ever needed something, like, they would all come and help, but I don't ever ask for help. It's more like I'm trying to give them everything I
Of
have.
course. And they know that you would be there for them. And so it's that
Yeah.
the energy that you're putting out totally
Yeah,
makes
it's
sense.
more like, how can I help you more than how you can help me, is
Right.
my approach to my
Right.
friendship. And I don't think everybody like does that. So when you find other people that are like that, you just have a good vibe about them.
It's the whole, it's like completely part of a company culture if you decide for it to be. Like,
Yeah.
like my whole company is run like that. And so it's just part of the DNA. We've set that into our values. Have you
Yeah.
set formal values in the company? And if so, how have those helped you show up as a leader during this crisis?
You know, one of our values is like constant iteration and like always improving and always listening. And it's because we were listening that we realized there was a crisis and a shortage. And I had been in New York, 2 weeks before Governor Cuomo said, like, we're running out of supplies. We need help. Who can sew? And I had seen it firsthand, like just the kind of tidal wave that was coming. And by the time I got back in LA, my team was like, oh my God, COVID-19, what are we going to do? What's happening? And so it did feel like it was like coming to LA, but hadn't landed yet. So that's like definitely a value that we all immediately adapted. We pivoted. We like changed pathways, and then we went into constant iteration, and we developed the pattern for our face masks in like 24 hours. And then 36 hours later, our factory was set up to make the masks. And from there, it was just like, edit even more. Okay, wait, it doesn't fit the nose as well. Let's change
Right.
that. And like, I think we've changed the pattern like 12 times since we started. And every time we find some other pattern that's like a tweak to the pattern, like we
Yeah.
make the adjustment. And we always do that with anything Headley and Bennett. And so that's just like baseline.
I want to know everything about the masks. Who are you making them for? How much are they? How do we get them? All of it.
So, when I decided we were going to do this, I was like, the only way we can do this, and you can see it says like,
Yeah.
worn loud and proud by, we're going to have to do this with our community. And that's how Headley and Bennett has been built. So that made it fairly simple to do. We said, let's try it. We designed it with super soft chambray. So it's very breathable. It's comfortable. It like wraps around your chin and your cheek.
Breathable is like the key word.
And then we worked with Dr. Bob, who's the chief of staff of Shriners Hospital here in LA. And he was like, you need to have a space for a filter. So created this opening in the back that you could put a filter into. And our newest iteration, which is starting to happen this week, will now have a wire on the nose so that it like wraps even more. That's again part of evolving.
Yeah.
I'm going for progress, not perfection.
And so where are these able to be bought for people who don't know your brand?
So you can buy them online at headleyandbennett.com/mask. And then you can see our little logo on there.
Yeah.
And it's a buy one, donate one model. So and they're $22 for both. So for the $22, you get yours. And then we also we take care of literally from start to finish, like the distribution and shipment of a mask to a frontline worker in need. And we have a huge list of hundreds of locations that are looking for donations because they're running out of supplies.
And are people buying them in bulk, or this is mostly B2C?
Both.
Okay.
So we've had, tens of thousands of orders online, hundreds of thousands of units, like a lot of different masks have gone all over the United States. And then we've also been doing bulk orders for organizations as they need them, whether they're like a church or a hospital or a senior citizen home. And what's wild is that over the last 2.5 weeks that I started this, first, only healthcare workers needed them. And then the CDC announced that everybody needed them. So it like immediately became this wild fire of like,
of course,
you have to make masks. It's a crazy thing because, we are now able to employ over 120 people that are all working on this that otherwise wouldn't have had jobs.
Yeah, that must feel good. And do you think that this mask thing is like here to stay? This will be a part of your permanent collection?
I think for us as a brand, absolutely. A lot of brands, like you name it, they're making masks. I don't know that it's going to be a ongoing thing for them, but for us, it felt like a really natural product extension because we're already a workwear brand.
Yeah.
And if you're in a restaurant and you buy aprons, you're now going to buy the face masks to match the aprons, and you're going to off you go.
And you have it in all the same color palette?
We are doing them in like batches of color. Like we'll do a few thousand in each color.
I like it when you have it's like a pinky mauve-y.
Like a reddish. Yeah. You can't choose yet, but one day soon you'll be able to choose on our website. But they're all pretty like gender neutral, simple colors, but really well made.
You can tell how well made they are, just the stitching, just all of it, and the breathability and the fact that you can put in a filter. Who knew that we would ever be having this conversation? Literally, when I messaged you to be on the podcast, I thought we would literally just be talking about like Oliver the pig and you're cute.
And here we are.
Here we are talking about masks. But I can tell you, like, as a human being, I'm super grateful that you're making these masks, and it's going to get us in a better position as a global community faster. So it's great.
We are all in this together, right?
We are all in this together. Tell me about quarantine life with Oliver, with the pig, and with your husband, Casey. What are you doing to survive?
I'm cooking to cook more than cooking to eat. I'm just like rolling from one pot of beans to a bowl of pasta to a granola plate to you name it.
Yeah.
I definitely have cooked more in the last 3 weeks than I have in years, since I was working professionally in kitchens. And it's awesome because we're not really eating out at all. I mean, we can't, right? But I'm not even doing takeout. And every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner is at home. And I do believe that there's a lot of really good things coming out of this for everybody.
100%.
It's
Like if
making
we
us
can just
all
hold on to
calm
certain
the fuck
things.
down. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I
just
couldn't
like,
believe it.
oh my God, like it's like someoe's going like
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
whole world and being like, all right, you guys,
Yes.
let's
I mean,
reassess how we've been doing life here.
100%. There's some beautiful things I've said like forever, like in my personal goals, like, okay, get more family time, more kind of sit around the table time,
Oh my
slow
God.
down, be with the
Yep.
kids, create memories. And I'm like, well, apparently we're doing that now. Lots of
Yeah.
meals. And the kids are like doing stuff to help out around the house that they weren't doing before that we all took for
Oh
granted.
yeah. I've talked to so many parents that are like, this has been the best thing. Like we have a great
Yes.
relationship. Kids are
Yeah. There's been
happier.
so
It's
many
just like
beautiful things.
calms
Yeah. The
the
animals are
situation down.
happier because they've got
The
like
animals
people
are
around.
so happy. The
I know.
shelters are empty. The dog
I know.
shelters.
I know. There are some beautiful things. And having lived in New York and during 9/11, it felt really beautiful for a period. And then kind of people went back to like business as
Yeah.
usual. So we all have to hold each other accountable to just keep this being present thing
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
all leveling too of like who's who and who's got more money or who's got more this or
Yeah.
that. It's all like flattened completely.
Oh, totally. It's like it doesn't this weekend I had a call with Brie Larson, the Marvel Comics lady.
Yeah.
Actress lady. Yes, she's a lady too though.
A lady
uh,
actress.
the lady actress. And she was like, how can I help? What can we do?
Yes.
How can we work together? And it's just like, it doesn't matter who you are. Just like we
I've loved
are
it.
all kind of like together figuring out how we get through
Yeah,
this.
I think it's great. So I always ask this at the end of all of my podcasts,
Yeah.
but it's the ultimate question of what fuels you?
Ooh, what fuels me?
Ooh,
I love seeing things in my mind and then having them happen in the real world. That is that is like the biggest, baddest, coolest fuel that I can get my hands on is like imagining it and then putting it into the real world, especially when other people don't see it. It's just
yeah,
like thrilling for me. And I think when we built our factory, and I was like, we're gonna have slides and a swing and a zip line, and we're gonna
I
build the
love that.
and people were like, what? What do you mean? And I'm like, we're going to be vertical and the cutting and sewing and shipping are all going to be here. And, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have been able to pull off what we pulled off. It was that everything was in the
Yeah,
same place with the supplies and the manufacturing. And so all the workers, everybody here, that's why we were able to do what we did for
yeah,
COVID-19.
yeah. Well, I see you as someone who's definitely living life kind of on that top floor. Like you've got a different way that you've come into this world. And I think that we need people like you who are leaders and who are meant to inspire. And it's no surprise the way that you're doing it right now. And I'm so, first of all, happy to see you. And I wish I could give you an actual hug because I'm a hugger and
Oh,
so are you. Next time I see you, I'll give you a big
it'll be a
squeeze.
people are going to hug the shit out of each other after
And just
COVID-19.
squeeze each other. I know. So good to see you.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
Bye. See you
Bye.
soon. Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, and follow us on social media to keep up with the latest news and episodes. You can also contact us at podcast@fueltalent.com to provide feedback, ask questions, and share topics or guests you would like us to cover in the future. We hope you feel inspired by our guests and that we have helped fuel your day. Join us next time for another episode of What Fuels You.